All right, so today we're going to have a discussion about the new president of Nintendo of America, Devin Pritchard. Doug Bowser has indeed left the company. He's now at Hasbro for some reason. I don't know. I like Hasbro toys when I was growing up, so maybe he'll give me some more Hasbro style wrestling figures. But now we have Devin Pritchard in charge of Nintendo of America. She recently did an appearance at the New York Game Awards or something like that. And a lot of people are in a tizzy. I've been seeing lots of videos pop up online about Devin Pritchard and her ideology for Nintendo. And, oh, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. And if you know anything about me, people are entitled to their opinion. You could talk about whatever you want to talk about. You could think anything you want to think about a situation. I like to look at the grander picture of things and kind of make my opinions on it. I'm not saying my opinions are right and theirs are wrong, or theirs are right and mine is wrong. At the end of the day, it's just opinions. But I think when you look at the bigger picture of this, and if you have a general understanding of how Nintendo of America kind of works as a company, I think there's a lot of maybe not misinformation, but things that are being taken out of context in order to paint sort of a narrative here. And if you know anything about me, I'm not a diehard Nintendo defender. Like, I call them out on stuff all the time. So let's talk about this, because Devin Pritchard is indeed in charge, and people are worried about the company's going woke. It's a woman. And like, I understand when it comes to fandoms and when people come into fandoms with intentions of not joining the fandom but changing the fandom from the get-go to suit their needs, to suit their ideologies and stuff like that, it can be very, very off-putting and very divisive. It would be like if somebody came into the sim arcade scene and was like, I want to like Gran Turismo, but I want it to be arcadey. I want there to be jumps and stuff like that. And then they make it so that other people think this way and try to force the company to make a massive change when their core audience doesn't want that change. You see what I'm saying with that? Like, that kind of stuff I feel is very toxic, but it's not like Devin Pritchard is someone who just walked off, you know, from the street and was hired by Nintendo of America. She's been working for the company since 2006. She was there for launches of games and contributed a major role with games like Nintendo Switch Sports, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Pokemon Legends Arceus. She's been with the company for 20 plus years. So to say that she doesn't have a general understanding of Nintendo, I think is ridiculous to me, because by that logic, Reggie Fils-Aimé, who everyone loves for some reason, even though he was so against, having certain games be brought over to North America, games like Disaster Day of Crisis, he didn't want Xenoblade to be here because of the region locking thing. He didn't think it would be profitable or smart for the Wii to do it and stuff like that. Reggie Fils-Aimé came off the street corner working at Pizza Hut. But we liked him. Everyone loved Reggie. Reggie, this guy is awesome. He's going to kick ass. And it's like, he has no knowledge about video games. He's probably a very casual gamer. You've seen how he plays games whenever he was at events and stuff like that. But everyone welcomed him with open arms, even though he had no real prior experience to things. So I don't really see this as like some weird hostile takeover situation, because this is an individual who works for Nintendo, who has worked for Nintendo for 20 plus years, did a lot of things for the company and has a general understanding of how things work. And that's kind of a disconnect that I think a lot of people have. They think Nintendo of America is like this company that's calling shots, that's making big decisions. That's we're going to do this game. We're going to have this game. Nintendo of America literally is a marketing firm, and sometimes will dabble in like translation stuff and stuff like that. Nintendo of America is basically a marketing firm, though, at the end of the day. This is not the era of Iwata and Reggie, where Reggie would make a decision and that would actually impact people, because Nintendo has kind of changed how things are going after Iwata passed away. It is a very different thing. Nintendo of America simply exists to get you information about what's happening with Nintendo in America. it is still a very Japanese-centric company, if not more so now than what it was 20 plus years ago when Reggie Fils-Aimé was around, because now the decision making, like name me 5 things that Doug Bowser decided. Name me 5 things that Doug Bowser, in his entire tenure at Nintendo of America as president, name me 5 things that he played a role in. Like, are you going to say pricing? Where do you think that came from? You think Doug was like, oh, God, he kind of looked like a turtle, like coming out of his shell. Oh, God, we've got to up the prices of these accessories. No, it came from Nintendo of Japan. Nintendo of Japan is deciding everything with this. They're not just sitting back and letting Nintendo of America. This is not a situation of Sega of Japan and Sega of America in the early 90s, where the two companies were at complete odds and they were ran as 2 different companies entirely, really. This is a situation where it's like, it's what Nintendo of Japan says goes. Like, that's it. You can't sit there and name me a bunch of things that Doug Bowser did. So why does anyone think it's necessarily going to be any different with this lady? Now, I could be completely wrong on this. She could be a complete tyrant, come in there and be like, Mario's going to have a vagine and this, that, and the other. But that just doesn't make sense to me. There's no precedent for that to like be a concern or something like that. Now, Devin Pritchard did make an appearance at the New York Game Awards, and this is kind of what spurned on a lot of people and their fear of what is happening here, because she said that let me pull this up here. She said the following, and now that's like a sign for craziness here. So she goes on to say, after being introduced by Reggie Fils-Aimé, the one everyone loves, "Hi everyone, it's great to be here. My name is Devin, and before anything else, I want to celebrate the New York Game Awards. 15 years of supporting the games industry, and doing so lifting up the voices, stories, and dreams of so many. The show connects people who are united by a shared belief that every dream matters and that everyone deserves a chance to do meaningful, creative work in games and storytelling." And then she goes on to talk about the Playing with Purpose program, which supports creators, coders, the writers. Okay, so people heard this. You know, everyone deserves to have a voice, and you could sit there and argue that no, not everyone deserves to have a voice, because some people are batshit crazy. But everyone deserves to have a voice, blah, blah, blah. And now they're like, oh, well, this means that Nintendo is going to have all these crazy ass games and stuff like that. And, you know, these weird games that are very controversial and make a stance. And then the developers, they get mad at you if you don't agree with their, you know, not necessarily traditional opinions and stuff like that. You're an enemy, you're an ist, you're an ism, you're a this, that, or the other. Look, I've been called all of that stuff on this channel before. So I am someone who does understand that viewpoint. However, there's a major problem that everyone is overlooking with this. This has nothing to do with Nintendo. This statement was not made about Nintendo. This statement was made about how the New York Game Awards uplifts people's voice, how the Playing with Purpose program allows people to have a voice and learn how to make games and stuff like that. Do you think Nintendo of Japan is like sitting back and they're like, you know what? We need to hire some of these games with purpose people. We need to be scouting. We need to be scouting the New York Game Awards, which I don't even know why that's a thing. Like, no disrespect, but like, it doesn't get views. It doesn't seem like anyone necessarily cares about this yet. For some reason, like, large industry people show up at this. So maybe it's a historical thing, and it's a little bit beyond me. But do you honestly think that like Nintendo of America is sitting there like, yeah, this is where the talent is? These are the people we want to. They don't even like hiring people that aren't Japanese. Who do you think is working on these? They're mostly Japanese people, but they're going to scout the New York Game Awards. To me, it's an overreaction Because if you take it out of context, it's kind of like, whoa, what do you mean about that? You know, this, that, and the other. But if you actually look at the context of it, it's much ado about nothing. I don't see Devin Pritchard doing much of anything for Nintendo of America. If anything, she might actually help because of her background in doing marketing for Nintendo. Because Nintendo's marketing has been pretty shit lately with the disjointed thumb and the weird, oh my God, is this a Nintendo Switch OLED screen and all this sort of stuff? They need help in that area. They need to kind of hone things in with that. But as far as Devin Pritchard being the woke antichrist who's going to ruin and, you know, do all this stuff, and Mario and Luigi are going to make out and Bowser's going to jerk his dick in a cuck chair, I don't see that happening. I don't see, and if I'm wrong, I of course will address my errors and I will say that I'm wrong, but I doubt it on this. Because if you look at everything, if you look at how Nintendo of America runs as a company, if you look at what Nintendo of America does as a company, if you look at what the previous president, Doug Bowser, did, which was nothing, I don't think there's much to be worried about here. It's just another person filling a role for Nintendo of Japan. Let me know in the comments section down below, though. What do you think about all of this? Do you think Devin Pritchard is the woke antichrist and is going to ruin Nintendo? It'd be kind of funny if she did. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would laugh, and I would cover the games and be like, wow, what happened here? But, you know, everyone has their own opinion. Like I said, I'm not saying my opinion is right. It's just my opinion. But I feel like my opinion is based a little bit more in reality than maybe some of the opinions you've seen out there. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm sure it'll be completely civil and normal and well organized. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.